Hello, and welcome to this very special episode of Seven Story Podcast, as it's unofficially called. Today, we have two authors being interviewed at the same time. They are co-authors in the fantasy realm or in the fiction realm. Sorry, I don't really do the research before the interviews because I like to learn with everybody else. I don't
That's
want to have
right.
an advantage on the would-be audience. So.
Yeah.
But anyway, Courtney, Clarke, introduce yourselves and we'll take it from there.
Hi, everybody. I'm Courtney Collins, and I'm delighted to be here. So thank you for having me.
Yeah, and I'm Clarke Collins. I am the other half of the co-author duo, and I'm really pleased to be here. And thank you for inviting us.
All righty, no problem. All right, so we'll get to the first question. So just tell us a little about yourselves and like what you guys like to do outside of writing. Like what's a day in the life like for you?
All right. Well,
it's always an adventure.
Do you want to go first? See, now we're going to talk over each other. My God, it just is endless competition.
All right. How about Clarke? You go first since, you're more eager to answer.
No, not a problem. I live with Courtney, obviously, and our two children in Vermont. So we are way up in the Northeast right now, buried under quite a bit of snow, but barely breaking zero at night, which is fantastic. But I work for state government. Don't hold that against me. I don't work for the man. I do work for the man, but I'm not. It's not who I am. But but really, I'm trying to I work in benefits and HR, and I try to make healthcare affordable for everyone. Which is an uphill battle as of late. And outside of that, I'm an avid video gamer. I am a big tabletop role player, and a fantasy book reader as a not only a writer but a reader.
All right, Courtney, it's on you.
All right. Well, here's a typical day in my life. I wake up. And I lie in bed and I take a few moments and let the existential dread just flow through my body. And I sit with that looming anxiety to start my day. And then I get up and I work at a law school. We have one law school in the entire state of Vermont where we live, and I work there. I am not a lawyer. I just work for them. And in fact, I work in our environmental law program. So I like to think about it as assisting the people who are crafting the laws that'll help protect our environment and our planet.
Okay.
And then I come home and I wait for Clarke to make me a fabulous dinner because he is the chef in this house exclusively. And then when I'm done dining, as eating is one of my favorite things to do, at nighttime, not every night, mind you, but on occasion, I do burlesque dancing. So we'll go out to the clubs, we'll do a show, I'll do a performance, and then come home and sleep never enough. Mm-hmm. That's a snapshot. And yes, as Clarke mentioned, there's two children in the mix somewhere, feral, unmanaged. They're great.
All right, quite the eventful, day in life. Hitting 0 degrees, yeah, that's
Listen, that's no good for us too. Let me be so clear. At this point in the year, when it is February and we've had winter for 2-3 months at this point, the temperatures are down, the snow is high. None of us want this. This is not a good time for us. Let me be clear.
Yeah, definitely.
No, sir.
Definitely. Ugh. All right. So, what inspired your guys' first work together? Like, what was the thing that got you into it in the first place? Courtney, I'll bat it over to you first.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, I was actually going to hand it over to Clarke because it's his brainchild. So you know what? I'm just going to keep passing this speaking stick around till it hits Clarke.
All right. Just around the horn. It all started when we were in college and I was studying abroad in Germany. It was I went with another school. It wasn't through my own school, so I knew quite literally nobody. And I was studying in Freiburg, Germany, and I was and this is going to age myself, but the email was a newfangled thing. It was the hot ticket item, was being able to email people across the world.
Okay.
So it's how I kept in touch with Courtney, because we went to the same school.
Gotcha.
And we were emailing each other, and just one day, and honestly, I don't even know what the inspiration was, other than, again, I was alone with my thoughts an awful lot. I just started writing what eventually became the story. It really was it was a couple paragraphs, just like almost like an intro to a story. But I just wrote it down and sent it over email just for fun. And, Courtney wrote back, and he was saying, hey, this is actually kind of fun. This is interesting. And it just, the next day it was another paragraph or another couple paragraphs, eventually became a chapter. And before you know it, it was a whole, well, not before you know it. It took a little time, but it became a whole story.
Right. Okay. Got you.
Mhm.
Got you. That's interesting. Like just when email was new, I'm like, like
Listen, we don't have to focus on that part of it. Listen.
I'm thinking AOL type days. I'm thinking AOL. Like
That's right.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, all right. Anything you want to add to that, Courtney, before we move on to the next question?
Well, I mean, I guess it's so the story started early on in our relationship. It started many, many years ago at this point, and so it's been with us our entire adult lives. We've had this story, and it's not something that has taken us an entire lifetime to write. Like, we wrote it, but then set it aside, moved across country, moved back, got a house, had some kids, like all that good stuff. And so it's been kind of an off and on with us throughout the years. But in recent years, we got serious about making something of it and turning it into like a finalized story, a finalized product that we could then put out for other readers.
Okay. All right. That's dope. Definitely dope.
Right.
All right. So
right on.
how do you guys come up with characters? Are they spontaneous or meticulously planned?
Ooh.
I would say that they're intentional. I don't think anyone's ever popped up in the headspace and I've been like, oh, who are you? Like, I feel like we think about characters intentionally to think about what type of person or character we want in our story, what purpose they're going to serve, what they're going to do for our main characters and the plot and things like that. But the beauty of having a co-author is that, if I'm thinking about something, I can turn to Clarke and say, hey, I'm thinking of this character. I'm thinking of this blacksmith. We're going to make her a woman. Like, what, and she's an elf. And how are we going to make her important? And then we can just have the conversation right there about boosting a character. So that's pretty cool.
Okay. Anything you want to add to that, Clarke?
Yeah, I mean, just other than, sometimes the simplest characters are the characters that we originally wrote as, either very minor or, just not vital to the story, grew and evolved into people or characters that became, especially when we were going through initial, having people initially read it, give us some feedback, characters that just evolved into fan favorites. And then it, the feedback that we got from that made us evolve them even further in our writing. So we gave them more scenes, more personality, more background. And it's been fun watching some of our book children, so to say, grow and grow into, what ended up becoming the final story.
Okay. That's awesome. I mean, most of the time writing is usually a solo job. So it's like the only person you're having a conversation with is yourself. But to have somebody to turn to be like, hey, what do you think about this character? And then, just kind of have that. That's dope. So I forgot. But anyway, we can move on to the next question. I had something, but
it comes and it goes. I mean, I'm the same. Listen, brain rot is real, and we're all rotting right now, so I get it.
Oh my God. All right. So, what are some of you guys' favorite genres to read? Now, I know Clarke said fantasy, but we didn't get anything from you, Courtney. So, we're gonna
I mean, I'm a fantasy girly. I mean, truly, it is the love of my life. But I would say I also enjoy certain nonfiction too.
Okay.
I'm thinking of recently. Bull Garrington wrote Fat in Paris, and it was a travelogue of his experience traveling internationally as a very large-bodied man. Okay. And it's this humor, it's this unbelievable humor, and not, I mean, it's self-depreciating, but it's also just laugh out loud funny. I was crying laughing at some points, but it's all true. It's all based on like what actually happened to him and his wife traveling around the world. And so I don't know, I guess I enjoy fantasy and the make-believe, but I also enjoy the realism too.
Okay, I got you.
Mm-hmm.
All right, what about you, Clarke? Any other genres, or is it just pure fantasy?
I'd say it's about 95% fantasy. I very rarely break out. Every once in a while, I don't mind a good horror book.
Right.
I'm a big fan of Stephen King, so horror is mixed in there. I'm also a big fan of graphic novels. And typically the graphic novels that aren't the typical Marvel DC characters, sort of the ones that are sort of self-contained stories type of thing. I'm a big fan of those too. So it's not really a genre, so to say, but I do break out into those as well. But I'd still say it's mostly fantasy.
Yeah, I gotta get into graphic novels because I just think that's so cool because it's like you have a story in there, but you get to see the drawing and the characters kind of play the story out. It's just like, but I'll just never be able to just go to a Barnes and Noble and just like pick up a graphic novel. Because with the Marvel DC ones, it's kind of like you pick one up, but then you got to read the other one before it.
Right.
You gotta go before that one, and then you gotta go before that one. But it's like
exactly.
You don't have the whole collection, and you can't really
right.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I think I remember that question now. So, would you guys describe your stories as character driven or more world driven?
I would say it's character and plot driven, and it's probably a mix. What that percentage is, I'm going to defer that to the numbers man in this room because I couldn't say that. But I would say there's a lot of character development and a lot of plot. I would say the world building is not super unique. And I don't mean to say that and like put down our own book, but I mean, it is definitely like that kind of medieval fantasy type world, right?
Yeah.
And I think we put our own spin on it and we, add our own description to it, but it is familiar in a European sense. You know what I'm saying? I admit to that. That's where it's coming from. So, but yeah, I think the plot is strong and I think the characters are both strong, but what is that split, Clarke? You tell me.
All right.
I'll put it somewhere around. No, I'm just kidding. I'd say it's more character driven than plot, but maybe 60-40, 70-30, somewhere in there is probably what I would say is like a split. But it definitely leans more towards character driven. I think our characters are really what hold the most water with the story.
Okay. Nice. So me, I'm 100% character driven. It's like, yeah, I could do the world building, but it's just like, I focus more on the characters and what they're doing. Like they move the story,
right?
Because who's taking action, the characters. So,
right. Right. No, I agree with that. And also like when I'm reading a story, like if I was reading your books, right? Like I want I want to bond with the characters in some way, right? Like I want to either connect with them or empathize with them or cheer for them. Like when I'm reading, I'm focused on the character, and then whatever they're doing is what they're doing. But it's the interpersonal piece that really gets me. So
yeah, definitely. All right, so what's the most difficult thing about being a writer, in your guys' opinion? And I'll go to Clarke first on this one.
Ooh, I would say that the hardest thing for me personally, and this is still, it's still difficult even now, is being able to thoughtfully receive criticism and feedback. It's writing a story is such an intimate thing. It comes from the heart. It's really something that comes from from deep within when you finally get a story out and written, and being able to have someone say this whole scene just doesn't work, or we had a comment that the first third of our book could go, and it's you hear something like that, and it's hard hearing it and not just automatically saying, oh, they're wrong, or the feedback, they don't know what they're talking about. It's been really difficult and a struggle for me, but I've gotten there over time, to be able to take criticism and say, you know what, I'm going to sit with this a little bit, and then I'm going to look at it again, and I'm actually going to see where they're coming from. And I can't, I would say almost every time, it makes the story better. Because, these are the readers, these are the people that are reading your story. So if they're telling you, hey, this didn't grab me, or, hey, this could be better, that's who you're catering to. You're not catering to yourself as the writer. So that was the hardest part. Honestly, being a writer, that's been the hardest part, is being able to put yourself out there for critique and feedback, and then also getting it.
Okay. Gotcha. All right, Courtney, what about you?
Yeah. No, I think that's all very fair. I think there's a couple ways I could answer this question. I would say, what's the hardest part of being a writer for me? I think of it as the stages of writing, right? And so for me, I think drafting is the hardest when you have that blank page in front of you. And it's exciting too, because when it starts to flow, and then you look back and you're like, oh my God, I just wrote this banging scene. Like, and then it's a really good feeling. But like sometimes it doesn't come that way. And you're just like, well, shoot, it's not going to happen right now. And that's really hard and frustrating. I tend to do much better with the revision and the editing stages. Like I could spend all my time there. Like once the words are there, I can then play and massage and refine to my heart's content. And I do.
Okay.
The second thing I would say, the hardest part of being a writer right now is the marketing, is the social media piece of it, because we're here, there, we're every bleeping where on social media, and it's a lot to keep up with. And I feel like I'm online all the time. I feel like time I could be spent writing is instead spent online, and it's a mixed blessing because we need social media to stay connected with each other. It's how we all connected with you, right? And that's important and that's valuable. But it takes up a lot of time. It's like a full-time job.
Oh yeah, it is.
I have a full-time job. I have a few jobs in my life right now. So like to have this on top of it all, listen, I'm a very tired lady. Let me just put it that way.
Oh yeah, definitely. Especially to Clarke's point about receiving feedback on your writing. I don't know. For me, it's just like I just came up in a literary background. Like that kind of is what it is. One rule that I heard in college was you're not as good as you think you are.
Yeah.
That's the first rule. Is like you're not as good as you think you are. And it's always been like all right, you write something, put it out there. People say, this didn't work, this didn't grab me. But I just find that with criticism and critiques, it's a matter of like, is this person your target? Because let's say you have 10 people that read your book, 7 of them like the first 30 of a book, and they say, "Oh, the first third is great," but 3 of them say, "the first third can go." I mean, you'd be like, "Well, I'm gonna stay with these 7 because, like, in
Yeah.
the first, in the last 3, they're not my target." It's just like it didn't grab them. There's nothing I can do about it. They're not my target, so I'm gonna just go with my target. That's just how I look at it.
Yeah, and that's the good part is that you get to have the final say too. You get to say, "I'm going to take this and I'm going to make this change," or you're going to say, "No, I'm not going to accept this because it doesn't work for me in my writing." So you get to decide that, which is great.
Oh yeah, definitely. And as far as like the whole marketing aspect, I totally feel you. I mean,
yeah, I bet you
haven't written
do.
anything in a couple months because being a publisher,
because you're hustling online.
Yeah.
No,
I've been publishing, so running a publishing company that's just coming up is like, hey, I'm just trying to, help other people out and things like that. There's a lot of people that want to get their work published, but they don't kind of know like where they can go. And I'm like, hey, let me just provide a place where people can do that. And it's been fun.
That's great. You've been getting good feedback on that too?
People that submit with us, interview with us, we've gotten, a lot of great feedback from them. And,
Good.
We have some people that, repeat submit. So, it's kind of like repeat.
Right. Hey. They had a taste. They're coming back for some more. All right.
Yeah. I mean, we only do short stories at the moment. We're working on getting to the books, but hey, it is what it is. But so we're gonna go to the fun question. So, what's the most unhinged thing you've written in your novel? Don't worry, we don't judge here. And whoever's feeling brave enough to reveal it, like.
Ooh, the most unhinged thing. That is one of the best questions I've ever heard. Do we have unhinged? I would say, Clarke, the first thing I want to talk about is the cheese thief, because he makes people unhinged in their passion for him, this one character. But I also want to say, generally, I enjoy writing the villains because I like to see how far they can how much specifically emotional. Like there's physical damage to one's body, but really it's the emotional damage that I get off on. So I want to see how much emotional damage. I want to see. Uncle Roger would totally be about this book because I think the unhinged part of the book might be myself because that's what I write.
All right, so she's the unhinged one, and you're the normal one. Like that's how.
Yeah, I have to pull her back. I have to reel her in.
You reel me in.
For me, I think the most unhinged idea, and I'm not going to spoil too much, so I'm just going to say what it is, and then people can read the book to find out what happens. But is our take on Dragon's Fire? I think is particularly unhinged.
Yes,
it's definitely like even when we were first drafting and
you did this. You wrote it. Don't put me in this. You came up with this.
Even when I came up with that, I was like, "Ooh, that's kind of nasty." But I went with it, and it's been again a fan favorite. It's been mentioned several times that it's a fan favorite. So I'll just leave it at that. It's called the what happens when you're hit with the Dragon's Fire in our story.
Okay, gotcha. All right, so Courtney's the unhinged element.
Yeah.
Don't forget
it. Especially in book 2. Holy moly.
Oh yeah, book 2.
All right. So let's go to this one. So what's one thing about being a writer that just drives you up the wall? It's just like you get to this point, it's just like, oh boy. Here we go again.
Ooh, I would say our author website on WordPress. I'm sorry, I'm gonna drag WordPress right now. It makes me crazy. It makes me have a meltdown like a child. It doesn't do anything that I want it to do. I can't stand WordPress.
Really?
Yeah. So, but that's not really writing. It's just like an element to our author persona. You know what? Okay, well, I'm going to say it. I get really fed up when I hear other authors saying that that writing conventions don't apply to them. So for example, if you have an editor that's like, look, you have so many adverbs in your writing. This is not descriptive writing. You need to take out the adverbs and be more organically descriptive. And I'll hear authors say like, no, my writing is perfect the way it is, and I don't need to change anything. And they just don't look to improve their writing because they're so sure that they've already perfected the language. I guess I don't know. I get tired of other people's egos, and I say this as someone who's very egotistical myself. However, when it comes to writing, like, people have to have humility. Like Clarke was saying, you got to be able to take critique. You have to be able to hear feedback. You have to know when you need to strengthen your writing. And I don't know. I run into too many people who are like, I am above all the writing expectations. And I'm over that.
Right.
That's some tea. There you go.
Okay. All right. What about you, Clarke?
Honestly, I think it is much like Courtney alluded to a little in the past question. It's the blank page. For me, it's the finding the time at the, the advice that whatever you do, just make sure you get some writing every day done type of thing. And I think it's sound advice. But man, between, working a lot of hours, very busy job, the kids, life, cooking, everything that's going on in the world, finding the source of creative inspiration is it's very low at the moment. And it's really hard to dig in there and look at a blank page and be like, okay, I got to come up with something. Because what I am not good at is writing for the sake of writing. And again, I know that is some advice. Just write down anything, even if you delete it later. I hate that repetition. Like, I hate going back and deleting and writing. And like, to me, it just, I want it to come out right the first time type of thing. So that's honestly probably what's making me throw my head back a little bit. Is just, that I, staring at the page and trying to find a source of creative energy with everything that's going on has been difficult.
Right.
I know it's in there somewhere, it's in there. It's just tapping into it.
I mean, in terms of that, like, honestly, I would just recommend like watching a good anime or just like, reading a good fantasy book, because sometimes like you gotta read creativity, consume it, you can kind of like produce it, But yeah, I definitely get you about, like just not having that source of inspiration, just looking at a blank page. And I don't know, I don't think I've ever had that problem, but I know authors who have. But it's interesting to see like, how people, deal with that element that just, the only thing that frustrates me is editing. I was just like, look, I'll write it all day. Having to go back and edit it, it is like,
no, Josiah, come to me. Come to my bosom. I will edit all day. It's my favorite. Are you kidding me? Come to me, my love. Hey, let me edit everything.
I'll send it over to you like, yo.
Yes. Bring it here. Bring it to mother. Let me have it.
I just need the line edits. I just need the punctuation, all that good stuff,
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, like, but other than that, it's just like, it is what it is.
Yeah.
We're gonna actually skip over the next few questions because I want to give you guys time to, promote yourself and, just put yourselves out there and let the world know that, the author duo of Courtney and Clarke Collins is here to stay. So take it away.
So now's where I do a burlesque act on film. No, I'm kidding. But actually, what if I did a burlesque act to this? Okay, now I'm inspired. Now I got to go write this down. So our book is called In the Name of Honor. It's the first book in the Vows and Valor adult fantasy series. It published 3 weeks ago at the time of this recording and is available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble. You can also buy direct from us authors on our website, which is collinsauthors.com. If you go to our website, you will find links to just about every social media known to humankind where we are at, and we would welcome your connection. I know I'm sorry for earlier when I complained about being on social media, because I really do enjoy connecting with people. And today, for the first time, we had our first unboxing video that we were tagged in over on Instagram. Last weekend, we spent all weekend sending out book boxes, sending out copies, and they've now been delivered. And somebody did this amazing book boxing video, and I was like, oh my God, like, look at us, like, look at our stuff. It looks amazing. So we have some amazing stuff that we would love to share with you all and invite you to come connect with us genuinely.
All right.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Clarke.
Now Clarke does a burlesque act. No.
That's as burlesque as I get.
Okay, you need to stop. No.
Just stop now. It's adult high fantasy. It's a sort of modern retelling of sort of classic fantasy stories. And what I mean by a modern retelling is, we're adapting to the world that, well, frankly, the world that we would love to see around us. So, it has a lot of inclusivity. It has a lot of, it breaks down pretty much every barrier they can think of in terms of toxic masculinity. It really strives to be inclusive to all. And we, intentionally wrote in that way, again, because this is our world, so we can make it however we damn well please. And in a lot of ways, we wanted to purposefully and intentionally sort of, go against, some of the real world, so to say. So, so we that was, one of our, one of the things that we intentionally wrote into our story. So, I mean, if that's something that appeals to you, then, hopefully our book finds home with you. We loved writing it. We have, I think the first book is a fantastic jumpstart to the trilogy. Book 2 is really where the emotional damage really comes in and, elevates and brings it to a whole new level. And as we're drafting book 3, I think hopefully we can take it just even a notch higher. So, it dialed up to 11 in book 3. So, I'm excited for people to read book 1 and really get their appetite for the rest of the world that's coming.
All right.
I'm sold. I'll take 10 copies.
All right.
I have about 80 in boxes behind us.
Right. I would like to thank you guys for, coming down and interviewing with little old 7 Story Publishing. It's been wonderful. It's been a fun conversation. And thank you to the 2 people that came in and out, at certain times. We love you. And we'll see you in the next one. And for now, see you guys on the flip side. And take care.